Hey folks, just a quick message from me before we get started today. Just in case you want to be on the show, if you're a commercial screen printer of any size, doesn't matter if you're working in your garage, your basement, a shed in the garden, or in a factory. But if you're interested in coming on the show, or if you're interested in asking a question, which we can put to our guests each week, then just email us. The email address is very simple. It's aspc@ministryshirts.com.au. aspc@ministryshirts.com.au. That's enough from me. Let's get on with it. And welcome back to the Aussie Screen Printers Club, the podcast that's aimed at least a little bit of talking about screen printing in Australia. Welcome back to the Aussie Screen Printing Printers. Okay, we'll have to cut that out. Welcome back to the Aussie Screen Printers Club with me, Sam Austrian Minor, and
Josh Patterson.
had to think about that.
Yeah.
From North Print Screen Printing in Toowoomba and in Armidale. So you know a bit more about this guest than I do today, but I'm pretty excited about this. Last week's was amazing. Honestly, Jason was just,
What a story.
yeah, it's outstanding. Yeah, really excited about what he's doing and how he's growing as well. So before we get stuck into that, how was your week, Josh? How's your hand? Give us the update. You being able to do anything other than super color prints?
No, been doing lots of super color or ultra color we use.
Oh yeah.
But no, we had a meeting with the specialist on Tuesday. Monday was a holiday here. And he said you shouldn't need any surgery. So got a new cast put on. And I was like, any way you can leave like a finger out and my thumb. So I've got two fingers. So I'm crabbing it at the moment, but I can tie thread together and I can pick things up. So I can do a little bit more with it compared to last week.
I wondered if you could fit some kind of metal brace around your hand and around a squeegee. You know, you just
I had
have it
all sorts of ideas in
permanently.
my head about how to make it work.
So, how was your week generally?
It was a pretty busy week. We had a few sort of rush jobs that were on for one main one for an event last night. That was pretty good. Yesterday was our graphic designer's last day here. So I'm interested to chat to Matt when he comes on about what he's doing for admin and that side of things.
Yeah, okay.
So that's been. I sort of had an idea, like we knew it was coming, sort of thing, but it still kind of sucked.
Yeah.
So, but otherwise, it's been pretty sweet week.
Well, that's good. I'm sorry to hear that. It's stressful, isn't it? Getting staff, losing staff, getting them, losing them again. It's
Mm.
an ongoing battle. It's a perennial problem for every business, no matter, what we do.
Yeah.
Oh, well, on that note, I interviewed a few more people this week. Had another tryout with another person who's going to get another day's tryout. And we actually employed a casual. We chose one of them already, who is a young fella, but pretty cool, part of the Yazidi community. Looks like a hard worker. Unfortunately, on the end of day one, he was playing soccer and twisted his ankle pretty bad, so he hasn't come in
Oh,
since. That's the way it
injuries,
is, I guess.
sport, great idea.
Yeah, sport. Yeah, you and him both. Problems for us this week. Nothing particularly major. We did have an order double ordered. I don't know how your transacting works in Hoops, but for us, once a customer pays through Stripe or through an through an EFT, when that's reconciled in the account, it just fires the order into our Monday solution for the ordering of stock, and then it fires it into the production queue when it's ordered. But occasionally, like you have those urgent ones. For some reason, we've got a ton of them on at the moment. Um, there's a big festival that a whole bunch of people come on, really late. So inevitably, it means that we have to start working on it before they paid.
Mm.
Then when they pay, it goes through to our pre-order system, which I don't see. And so we
Hmm.
did have a situation where we double ordered a few hundred
Cool.
t-shirts. Yeah, fortunately, most of them are black and white, so it's not really a
Ah,
big deal.
sweet.
We'll soak those up pretty quick.
Mm.
Good news for us. We got the heads of agreement in. A bit of work to do on that for the new premises, but that's looking
Sweet.
pretty exciting. Yeah,
Is that the one next door to you or a different place?
yeah, yeah. The one next
Awesome.
door, the 420 square meter one. The building, of course, isn't built, but at least we've got a bit of paper that says, "Hey, you can come and live here at some point."
At some
Um,
point.
yeah, two other quick things that were notable to me this week. We had a customer that wanted a wide sleeve print. Sleeve patterns are sort of 10 centimeters typically wide, and they
Hmm.
wanted something quite a lot wider. That was very frustrating, but they were sort of adamant. So we just did a plastisol heat transfer that was wider, and we just pressed them
Hmm.
straight on. Didn't even use the sleeve platen on the heat press, and it worked fine. It was really
Okay.
cool. Yeah, which is interesting. Sort of
Hmm.
makes you think, maybe we should do more of that, get longer and wider prints. Um, and the only other thing worth sharing is we had a couple of customers this week that brought in their own clothing, which of course we all hate in our industry.
Hmm.
And they were big brand names like Cotton On, for example. So they've gone
Mm.
into to not Kmart, but into preeminent retail outlets and purchased them at ridiculous costs, of course, brought them in for printing, and we say no to those. Um,
Okay.
yeah, just because the reseller generally doesn't want someone else's brand associated with theirs. But we had one of those which was for a sports group, and I can't remember the name of them, but they're like that FSHD or FSHQ. I
Uh,
should really know.
FXD.
Which one is it?
FXD, the workwear kind of brand.
No, no, it's a
Oh, okay,
sport. It's
different
a
one.
sports lycra and
Oh, okay.
really cool active wear, and they have their branding all over it. And we went back to that customer and said we can't print on these branded clothing. They then wrote to the vendor and said, "Can we print on these?" And they wrote back and said, "Yeah, go for your life." So, you know,
And you're like, damn, I didn't want to.
yeah, yeah, that was good. We were able to satisfy the needs. It was a good size order, but I just am surprised that they were okay with that. But um, I guess that's the way the market is.
Hmm.
All right, who's our guest today?
So today we have Matt from Heaps Good Merch on the sunny Gold Coast. He is, I think. So we decided to have a chat to him. I think he's got a similar sort of story getting into screen printing as me, and chat a little bit on Instagram. So
Oh,
it
cool.
should be a good time.
Yeah. All right, we'll get him in.
G'day, gentlemen.
Hey, g'day,
Hello,
g'day.
Matt.
How you going?
How are we?
Good.
Good.
That's all right. How's your Saturdays going?
Getting there.
Good.
I've my mic's been playing up a little bit recently, so I hit the old Facebook Marketplace and managed to pick one up this morning. So that's why we're running a little bit late.
That's all good. I'm running the earbuds, so I don't even know how it sounds.
Sounds
Perfect.
good. Sounds
Exactly.
great.
All right, sweet, awesome.
How's your week been?
Um, Honestly, pretty horrible.
Oh,
It's kind of just been one thing after the other. The printer. We had a public holiday here on Monday, and the printer was playing up, and transparencies weren't lining up. The registration kept like going out a few mil. So I pulled the whole thing apart on my public holiday and put it all back together and tried to fix it, and it just would not be fixed. And nothing was open and being a public holiday. So I kind of came in for half a day, did nothing, and accomplished nothing, and went home. But and then it's just been one of those weeks where it feels like you're getting nowhere, you're doing nothing, and the jobs are all cursed. So I swear that's a thing. Like some certain jobs are just cursed. Like from start to finish, it's cursed.
I agree.
Yeah,
I agree. Did you get it sorted?
Yeah, I got it. It took me 3 days. So what actually happened? It was a puff job, puff back, 3-color puff. So,
Right.
and you know what puff's like. It's every job you can do it exactly the same as the last job, but it will always come out different.
Mm-hmm.
So I hit it pretty good. Got pretty good puff, and it was only like 15 hoodies and I think 20 something tees. And then on the last hoodie, I reached over. For some reason, I awkwardly reached over the belt to grab the last hoodie, and I'm silly and I leave my pot of white ink on the end of the dryer to keep it warm. And as I've done that, my elbows hit the side of the ink bucket, and a massive blob of white has just gone straight on the hoodie. And it was one of those AS Color faded hoodies, so I think they'd like dye faded, so we couldn't do anything. I kind of put it through the belt again and scraped it off, but you could still see it. So, and then you're on the phone to AS Color, I need a hoodie straight away. And we're on the Goldie, so it takes a while to get here, a couple of days, even express. So it is what it is. Finally got it done after a week. But yeah, it's just one of those cursed jobs.
I've noticed a lot of puff inquiries at the moment.
It's crazy.
Just coming into winter, everyone's like, oh, puff, and I'm like,
yeah, it's funny how it comes and goes. Like I've done like 3 quotes just this week for puff. I did a job for puff. I've got another one next week with puff front, and it's like, why are you guys doing this to me?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's funny. I notice, I'll get a week and it will just be everyone wants something oversized, or everyone wants puff, or everyone wants this, and just do white shirts with black ink. Like, it's so much easier, guys.
That would be nice.
Yeah. What about your week? How's it been?
My week has been okay. I was just chatting a bit about that earlier. Nothing tumultuous. A couple of little errors. We had an issue where we double ordered stock for one of the bigger orders this week, but most of those were black and white, so that's good. They can just sit in stock. Got the heads of agreement in for our new premises, which we're looking at. That was pretty much it.
Nice.
So kind of just bumbling through. I know what you mean about cursed jobs or even cursed weeks. Just every now and again.
It happens, eh?
Yeah. It's almost like, well, this job looks pretty easy, 3-color or whatever. And then you're like, why didn't we? Yeah. We won't do puff ink though, I'll just tell you.
No, you don't do it.
Flat refused to do it. But it's interesting, we have had those requests lately, more of them.
Yeah.
Like clearly something's happening out there, but no, we just won't do it.
Yeah, I'm on like on the borderline of now just being like, if it's not 100 pieces, we're not doing puff. Like it's I lost pretty much 3 days on that job because tearing down a 3-color print too. So I'm just trying to fit one, because I've only got a 4-color 4-station. So I'm just trying to fit 1-color jobs on. I can still keep that set up and do the 1-color jobs. And it's just like, everything's, you're fitting jobs in here and there. And it's just like, what have I done? What about you, Josh? How's your week been?
It's been pretty cool. Ish, I guess.
I saw you
a little bit.
Hurt your hand.
Yeah. So I had a appointment with the specialist on Tuesday, and he says we don't need surgery on it, so that's sweet.
Oh, good.
And I got a new cast on, so now I'm like a little crab. I've got 2 fingers free.
So the pincer, the printer.
like super strong muscles on these two fingers by the end of it. But
Nice.
hopefully it sounds like it should be off in another 4 weeks or so. So I'm counting down the days.
Yeah, I know what it's like printing injured, and it's not fun at all.
No. It really does suck,
No.
but at least I can pick stuff up and do a bit of embroidery, and I've been doing a little bit of heat pressing this week with it. So trying loading shirts with two fingers is pretty fun on one side.
Nice.
The other thing, so I have a graphic designer, or did, and helped with the back end stuff, and it was her last day yesterday. And I remember chatting to you about it in the past. I think I saw one of your stories a few weeks ago looking for someone. I was interested to see how you went with that. And
well, I didn't get a graphic designer as such, but I ordered I ordered a guy. No, I hired a shop hand. So he comes in 3 days a week, and he does all my screens, and he does most of the heat pressing, because that I find like just the heat pressing, you zaps a whole day out of you sometimes, and you're like, well, I've printed 50 things for different jobs, but I'm not, it's not where the money's at. I need to be on press. So, so yeah, he's coming along well. I think he's been about a month now, so he's coming on well. Lots to learn, and when you learn it yourself, you don't realize when you hire someone how much you have to teach them, because like you've just learned it. So it's a lot. But I thought, he's in here cleaning screens, he's doing all my heat pressing. So, and he's got a great attention to detail. He can get his eye in, and he can see things that are not straight when they're not, and you can see that it's straight. And yeah, he's getting to grips with where to put the prints, and because I bought him like the thing that you put around when you load your shirt on, you put that little template thing on. I bought him a couple of those, but he's getting to the point now where he just sort of slaps it on, has a look, and 99% of the time it looks good. But yeah, he's coming on well. It's just a tricky sort of thing to hire someone and hand over a little bit of your business, but yeah, it's just that balancing act. But yeah, it's really good. Now I'd love to get a graphic designer. So if your one's finishing up, I'm happy to take it.
Oh, I wish.
That's the part of the job that really sort of I can't put time aside for it. Like, it's my time aside for that sort of stuff is after work at night, sitting on the couch watching TV. But yeah, I'm probably a little bit off hiring a graphic designer just yet, but all time.
That's it. All time.
Yeah.
I noticed you do some sort of like illustration stuff and like mascots and that sort of thing. Is that do you do that yourself, or do you use someone else for that?
Most of them I'll do myself. There's a few designers that, and then most of them are Aussie designers that come to me too. Joel Pringle, you probably see stuff floating around. He's pretty well known in that sort of field. His stuff's really recognizable. So, and that's where I sort of wanted my stuff to be recognizable too. But yeah, I just started doing them, and I did them for a mate who was a builder, and then they just sort of snowballed from there. I got heaps of DMs on Instagram saying I want one for my business, and then it's just that little niche that you just find yourself in. Like, I'm not sure how I got here, but I'll take it. But yeah, I love doing them. They're fun. They give them that sort of retro like look to their business, and yeah, it's just a great little upsell to, I want merch, and you're like, oh yeah, I'll do a mascot for you too. So I just think I just need to start charging a bit more for them. So it's finding that price, that balance of like how much to charge, because I'm not a graphic designer. I just do art for fun, basically. That's how I got into the whole thing, was just doing it for fun. And then it's
Well, let's catch that story. How did you get into it? Take us
back. Right.
How long ago was it?
2021. It was COVID. Yeah, it was a COVID baby. So yeah, was I had my own garage door business for 10 years. So completely different trade, and I just hated it. Every minute of every day. I hated Sunday nights, thinking that I had to go to work on Monday, and it like just that what that does to your mental health and just you as a person, like it just drags you down. Yeah, and I COVID hit, and we were kind of still working. We were able to work, but work just dried up. No one was building houses, so it was. I needed to find something else to do, and I started a little t-shirt brand, and was getting my printing. I was outsourcing the printing. I was doing all the designs and outsourcing the printing to Dan at Born and Thread. So, we built up a little relationship, and then I was really interested in how this all works, because I had no idea. I'm like, well, all I know is I get the shirts and there's my designs on them, and and I cringe to think of all the things that I sent Dan in emails, and can you do this? Can you do that? I want this, and he's like, I can't do any of that, because DTG, DTF wasn't a big thing then either, so it was all screen printed, and then it kind of from there it was like, well, how do I do this myself to sort of make more off each t-shirt? And then jumped on YouTube and just devoured pretty much all the cat spit, the Cam from Print Life, Lee Stewart, everything. Just spent about 6 weeks just devouring everything on YouTube.
Yeah.
And then bought what was it? It was a 4-color one station press off eBay, and it came with an exposure unit and a dirty old flash that was just on all the time, and nearly burnt the house down a few times with that. And set it up in the garage, kicked the missus' car out, and that was my shop for a year and a half. And yeah, just printed on this one station. It was so ugly. I don't even know how I did it. It was that blue press thing. It had little micro registration.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, it cost about $1,500 for the whole kit. But I was like, well, let's just invest and see where this goes. And from there, I faked it till I made it. Pretty much, I put an ad on Instagram for a ridiculously cheap amount. I think it was like $300 for 20 t-shirts, 1-color prints. Yeah, it was stupid cheap. I didn't have any idea, and then I got a bunch of work through that. But I just used that to sort of put myself out there, get the word out there.
Yeah.
And then I had probably 10 jobs to do from that one ad, and I was tearing my hair out that I don't have. But it was scary. It was really scary to be like, I don't really know what I'm doing, but I've got all these orders, and it's hard to think that was only 3 years ago. It feels like a lifetime ago.
Yeah.
But yeah, God, I remember, having the one station, and I think I got a job for like 230 t-shirts or something, and I had to load a shirt on, and when I printed with white ink, the platen would bend. So every print was different. Like if you're doing print flash print, it just ghosts everywhere. So you're making little rigs to put under your platen, like this bit of timber to stop it flexing, and like to think that I did like a 3-color 230 t-shirt order on something like that. Like it took probably a week, and I had net tags and everything. Like I had no idea what I was doing, and but I never heard from him again. I don't know if that was a good thing or a bad thing, but
good news.
Well, that's the way I put it. If I don't hear from you, then you loved your stuff. But if I do hear from you, then you want to order again. So
yeah, so you really loved it.
yeah, that's right. Yeah, but yeah, and that was pretty much it. 2022, I did my back, so my back just gave out.
Because of screen printing, or just...
No, because of the garage doors. So it was just lifting heavy stuff for 10 years. It just didn't work anymore. So I was in bed for probably around 6 weeks. So just the only time I could get up was to go to the toilet, and that was it. So, but every minute of every day was just agony. And I think that it was called degenerative spine disease or something like that. And it's just basically it's worn out. So I had surgery in January, I think, 2022. And that, it definitely helped. I'm doing it now with relatively pain-free. So, and now 2024, we're here. I've been in the factory for a year next month. So,
brilliant.
Yeah.
And with the back pain, just interesting. Like, so the damage was done before, but does it flare up because of physically moving your arms and the tautness of your back, or just bending over, or what? Yeah, or is it just everything?
I find if I'm doing sort of like a long print run, especially white ink on hoodies or something like that, the next day I definitely feel it. But it's manageable now. I can, a couple of days it's gone, whereas before it would be in bed for weeks. So but and it was pinching nerves and everything like that. So it was a horrible time, and props to my wife for sticking with me through that, because I was miserable too. So.
It must be depressing. Other things that come, like depression, because of that.
Exactly, and it's hard. You see friends going out, and even your wife and kids going out, and you're just laying there in bed all day, and you lose that purpose of going to work and doing all that. And it was a horrible time to even think about it. And it was probably since COVID, those 2 years of COVID, it was pretty bad. My father died at the start of COVID, so it was, and the back and everything like that. And it was just hell for a couple of years, plus COVID on top of that, but we're here now, and we're happy, and mental health's great. So couldn't be happier, honestly.
So you moved into a new factory almost a year ago. Tell us about that. What do you got?
We are in Ashmore on the Gold Coast. So originally we were in Victoria, and we moved to the Gold Coast in 2020, late 2022. We moved here just to give the kids a better lifestyle, to get out in the sun, get some vitamin D, and get off the iPads, and just explore and enjoy life. And
are you from Melbourne originally?
Yeah, we were in Melbourne. Yep. And we moved to Ashmore on the Gold Coast, and I was working in the garage for a year, just getting everything sorted. And I didn't really plan on getting the factory. It was every year I make I don't want to say it's like a vision board, but it's something to work towards. And I started doing it in 2023. And one of the things on there was to get a factory, but I didn't, that was right down the bottom. So I didn't really plan on it. And then this place in Ashmore came up, and I was like umming and ahhing, and I was like, can I afford it? And, it's an extra rent on top of my rent. It's, I don't pay rent in the garage, so to speak, to work there. But, and then I was like, well, if I want to do this professionally, and it was a bit awkward saying to clients who want to pick up their stuff, oh yeah, I'm just in the garage, it's just a bit, it doesn't feel right to have to do that. And you try and put that off, and a client's like, I'll pick it up. I'm like, oh no, I'll send it out for free, don't worry about it, just so I don't see me with my garage door up and me sweating in the garage in 30-degree heat. And then I spoke to my wife about it. She's like, just do it. Like, you got to take a chance on yourself. And if she was like, you think you've got a great thing here. I bit the bullet and just did it last June.
Magic.
Yeah.
And looks like you've, the word decoration isn't right, but you've established your presence on the wall there. That looks pretty cool.
yeah, got a bit excited one night. So yeah, but
Yeah,
that's kind of the brand that I want to come across as. You know, we being quite tattooed, and that's where I sort of started my art, was with the traditional tattooing sort of style. um, I wanted that to come across in the branding of my business, because I think it's important to brand yourself just as much as you're branding other people's brands. So
yeah, yeah, yeah.
and give them that sort of experience, and that's what it's kind of been. It's people love it, like they come here for it. So I had a guy drop in yesterday, and he just Googled screen printing, so in the area, and he's like, I saw what, like, your business and your style and everything like that, and he's like, and that's what I want. So, and you know, it was just a local business. It wasn't doing this kind of, you know, tattoo designs or anything like that. He just enjoyed what I sort of put out there, and that's that. I feel like marketing your brand is just as important as printing the merch. So yeah,
Absolutely.
so I
Have
just got a
you
bit
ever
busy.
come? Have you ever come across the book Start with the Why?
Sorry, what was that?
Have you ever come across a book called Start with the Why?
No, I haven't. No.
Well worth reading.
Yeah.
Out of all the business books I've given away,
Yeah.
I'd say I've given, you know, tons of those away compared to
Okay.
any other, by a guy called Simon Sinek.
Yep.
And the basic premise is this, you know, branding is everything,
Mm.
because you're conveying, you know, your image, your ideas, your attitude, you're placing yourself in the market as, you know, clearly that customer recognized.
Yeah.
Um, but Simon Sinek's premise is there are three types of branding. There are those that brand on the basis of what they do.
Yep.
Um, an example he gives is Dell.
Mm-hmm.
Dell were known for building computers. That's what they
Yeah.
did. They
Yeah.
dealt directly with people. Um, and then I forget the timing of this, probably the 90s, they brought out an MP3 player, you know, pre-iPod era,
Yeah.
just a little kind of thumb drive looking one. And you could get like 100 songs on it or something. And they sort of said, you know, this is the future. This is what we're producing. And nobody bought it.
All right.
And yeah, and they reckon that nobody bought it, even though it was great, because that's not what Dell does.
True. Yeah.
So then he goes on and talks about businesses that define their brand not by what they do, but how they do it,
Mm-hmm.
which sort of takes you into the luxury market. So that might be Rolls-Royce, you know, has its luxury prestige image anyway,
Yeah.
but they talk about how it's made. So the leather seats are stitched together in this traditional fashion, you know, the way that it's been done for a long time.
Yeah.
Another example I can think of is Lokes, who are a British boot manufacturer who have, I think they've probably been going a couple of 100 years or something, but they talk about, you know, they're not handmade boots in the sense of they're fitted for you, but they're handmade in the sense of using that traditional, this is the way we stitch and we've done
Yeah.
this forever and we know how to build a boot. So they're very successful again, but they price themselves in that market. But then he said there are companies that there are very few companies but that do this, but they're very successful that brand themselves by why they do it.
Mm.
Why do we screen print?
Yeah.
Why do we have that market that we're into? Why do we love that kind of art? That sort of thing. And his biggest example of that is Apple. And he takes Apple and says Steve Jobs famously said at some point that Apple's not a computer company, they're a liberal arts company. And
Right.
that, you know, spins it entirely so that when they create the iPod, people don't
Yeah.
go, well, hang on a minute, you're a computer company. They go, oh, yeah, that fits what I like, you know.
Yeah.
The other
Exactly. Yeah.
big one is Virgin Airlines, Southwest Airlines, you know, thumbing their nose at the other big corporate airlines and saying, no, we're doing it differently. I think it's really important to try and get that why and start with the
Mm.
why. He talks about it in terms of brand and strategic leadership, but to start with that as a premise, because then you're relating to your customer in a totally different way.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah.
Your customer comes in and they say, I'd like to print a clothing brand. And, you know, um, you're wanting to kind
It'll
of
be massive.
understand. Sorry, mate.
It's going to be massive.
It's going to be massive. Going to sell millions. Yeah, yeah.
I'm going to
But you,
start with 550 designs, and yeah.
yeah. But you want to connect with them on the basis of their why, and
Mm.
often they've got something, um, and for you to kind of express yours in that context connects you, and
Yeah,
so you have a different
exactly.
kind of working relationship. And I think it's really true. The problem is that so many companies' why is dollars. Nobody wants to hear that.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
that's the issue right now with Woolworths and
Mm.
Coles, right? That's why they're
Mm.
getting attacked,
Yeah,
really. They're profiteering. And so most companies don't want to express that, which sort of suggests there's a real kind of callousness in
mm.
a lot of the capitalism that goes on. But we've got something very different because we deal with art,
Yeah,
and art is why. It's
exactly.
always
Yeah,
thumbing its nose or expressing something.
yeah,
So I think it's good to have that on the wall and for you to be able to express that brand that people
yeah,
can connect with and understand it.
yeah. Exactly right. Yeah, and that's all it is. Is it's art, and I feel like if you're connecting through art, then like it's a special sort of thing,
It's,
and nothing can sort of like if you're wanting to do a t-shirt brand, and everybody, like Josh said, it's going to be massive. Like I hear that just about every day, and then you just never hear from them again. But
yeah,
it's that passion that those people don't have. It's that grind, like, and that's all it is. Is people think these clothing brands, they're going to be massive and it's going to be easy. All you got to do is take some photos in your shirt that you get printed, but man, it's a grind.
Mm.
Like it is, it's a massive hustle doing it, and that's essentially what made me stop it, is because I couldn't keep up with running a business also. So
it's a grind, but it's also a grind for small sales,
yeah,
per
exactly.
transaction,
Yeah,
one or two garments a transaction generally.
yeah,
And that's, I still feel, and I'm a novice in the area I'm about to talk about, but that there's a place for retail for clothing
hmm,
brands. I know it's harder to sort of penetrate that market, and you become a wholesaler dealing with a retailer, but it's certainly good for people to get the on-floor experience of touching and feeling a garment, even
yeah,
trying it on and so on. But I recognize too that e-commerce is without a doubt a real goer. You
yeah,
mentioned earlier about vision boards, and you sort of winced a little bit.
yeah,
Um, I don't think we should wince at those things.
yeah.
It's
It's yeah. It just doesn't fit me as a person. Like if people look at me and they're like, he's got a vision board for sure. So it's a bit hard to sort of be vulnerable and be like, yeah, I do have a vision board and I've got goals that I work towards. But I think
yeah.
they're great, and that was the first year that I did it, and I ticked off 4 out of 5 things. So
There you
I
go.
think I
There you
think
go.
subconsciously they work. And yeah, the only thing that I didn't tick off was we wanted to go to the Whit Sunday. So I'm like, oh, we'll just put that on this year's. So,
Mhm.
It's
but
still on the
yeah,
vision.
yeah, exactly. It's still on this year's vision board, but yeah, I think they're great personally.
I do.
Do you guys have vision boards?
I create visions of strategies continually. Like
Yeah.
this one, if someone comes like in a previous life, if someone needs business consulting and maybe they're getting going, or they've been going a while and they're stuck in a trough, or
Hmm.
sales are declining or not growing fast enough, or they just don't know the route to expansion. My first question is, but where do you want to go? What is
Yeah.
the goal? And don't be ashamed about it, right? It might
Mm.
be that you want to retire in 10 years and live in the Whitsundays or whatever,
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but get something written down and then work out, sub ideas that are related to that.
Yeah.
It'll change, it'll morph, adaptability is essential in business.
Yeah.
But if you don't do that, you will just spin around,
Mm.
Exactly.
and
Yeah.
maybe something will happen that provides an advantage or an opportunity to do something. But I think it's 100% essential. I've got a friend at the moment who is a electrician. He worked for someone else. He did some work for us, and he said, "Can you do a logo?" And I said, "Yeah, no problem." And he said, "Can you do some shirts?" And he started his own business, but
Yeah.
he's got to a point where he is so busy
Yeah.
that he cannot even stop and spend time to create some kind of vision. And I said to him, you need now to work out how to get staff and how to build that side of the business to release you to start working on the strategy and the bigger picture around brand. And I think that's one of the reasons a lot of sole proprietors, particularly in trades, are constantly leaving their sole proprietor, doing contract work for other people, which ultimately means you're beholden to them, and never really growing their business such that they've got something to sell at the end, and it just gets put away and finished. But if you create a vision, you will drive towards it. I mean, that's the premise behind it. The great quote is, "Without a vision, the people perish." We look to our leaders, if we can call them that, to create visions for the country that we can follow and stick to and run to while they're in office. So no, I'm not ashamed of it. I 100% go for it. How about you, Josh? What do you do in that area?
I've always thought about and liked the idea of it, but I've never actually in my head I have them, but I would like to get it down on something and put it somewhere I could sort of see it a bit more often, because once you get busy and it sort of just falls out of your mind to an extent.
I think it's important to write it down. Even write it down. I do it on Photoshop, and I just do silly little pictures that sort of coincide with what I want to do. And then you don't have to write. You don't have to write it so much. You can just look at it, and I think it's important to do it. And then I just print it out and I stick it on the wall near my press and look at it every day.
Yeah.
I like absolutely. That. I think that's awesome.
Yeah.
It is.
You were speaking of a bit more about branding. I noticed you got a fair few Google reviews and stuff. How do you usually try and capture those? Because that's always something that
that's a tricky one. I find it a bit hard to reach out to people after the job and be like, "What do you think?" It's a bit cringe to me. So I use Heaps for all my the CRM software and everything like that. And basically, I set up a Zap. So I think it's a week after everything gets sent out, it sends a Zap to them, an email to them that automatically says, leave us a review. So I don't even have to do anything anymore. It just automatically does it. And I think it's a good way to do it. We've got a few steady ones that just come in now. We don't have to ask for them. And yeah. What about you guys? Do you guys ask for them, or?
What do you
sometimes?
Do?
Yeah. I still do it sometimes.
Yeah. If someone comments, they'll send an email back and saying, "Oh, these are awesome." I'm like, "Oh, that's great. Thank you. If you don't mind, here's a link. If you got a spare 20 seconds, just give us a review." But I think I should probably try more. I do chuck something in with each order that has a QR code they can scan.
Yeah.
But I haven't really had much success from that. But yeah, I think it's something you just got to almost ask or get an automation. Do you set the automation through Heaps or through
Zapier?
Email?
Yeah, it's through Zapier, so it's all integrated. And then I think you can put it down to a week, and then it will send it. You can change the sort of duration of how long you want to wait. And then, it just automatically sends it. You got to press, there's a button that you press on my sort of spreadsheet.
The job board thing?
Yeah, on the job sheet, on the job board, and you just press Google review and it will all send it off. So.
Okay. And it's like a Heaps, one of what they would get when you send a quote and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay, sweet.
Yeah. It's a great way to do it, because you don't, running a business, you've got 100,000 things to think of every day. So it's just one of those things that it seems organic and it just sends it straight out. So it's good.
Yeah. Yeah, awesome. Set that up.
We do what Josh does in that if we get good feedback, we immediately come back with an email.
Yeah.
Not begging, but saying, look, this really helps us, would you do it? And they do every time.
Yeah.
And I'm terrified of getting a bad review.
Oh, me too.
Yeah.
I'll tell you a story. Actually, we had a lady that worked for us for a long while, and some things went wrong, and we parted ways. And she was very disgruntled and went to the ombudsman about pay and so on. And she got a bit confused about the minimum wage changes, because when the review comes out each year, it obviously refers to the current year, but talking about the previous year. Anyway, she was confused and said we'd underpaid her, but we hadn't. And she wrote a review. It's so obvious, you know, under a pseudonym, but she directly referred, directly referred to the events, and it was really defamatory. I was like, of course, we got 1 star, and there's a thing, in Google, you just click it and say, look, I'm concerned this is wrong. And there's a few different criteria. I thought, I'll just fill this out and see what happens. 20 minutes later, it was gone.
Oh, that's
Google
good.
just took it down.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, that's awesome. But yeah, we're always terrified of that bad review. And I mean, I guess the main thing about reviews is, apart from people can read them and go, yeah, okay, these guys seem kosher, is that Google ranks you higher based on that.
Exactly. Yeah.
Which is why you would have got spotted, in the Gold Coast by that customer that came in. Yeah.
I got a 4-star review. I think it was like last year, and they didn't write anything. They just put 4 stars. And then you put your investigative hat on, and then you're like, who is this person? Like, they have their name on there, and you click on their profile, and they've left like 400 reviews, just all local businesses. So I don't know if they're just trying to get like review clout or something. I don't know. But and then I'm going through because on my computer I keep every customer's file with all their artwork in it and everything. So I'm typing his name in, and nothing's coming up, and I think his name was Michael or something. So I'm typing in Mike and I'm typing in Mick, and nothing's coming up. And I'm like, there's no way we printed for this guy. He's just leaving reviews on everyone's business for no reason at all. And it's annoying. It's frustrating. I think I did the same thing. I did the Google, like you report it, but they just left it up. And I was like, well, it doesn't affect the score. It was still at 5. So I'm like, it's all good. Don't worry about it. But it is terrifying. And I think, as printers, we strive for perfection, and we go that extra mile. And then sometimes, if that extra mile doesn't work out on the print, it. The customer doesn't, obviously, but it, and you're like, they're going to see that. They're going to see that line is out 1 millimeter, and the underbakes are showing a tiny bit on one t-shirt, but they never do. and if they do, we fix it like that. And I feel like customer service is the most important thing. Like, prints need to look great, but if you're not looking after the customers, they're not coming back. And I think that whole experience, I think we just got a review this morning that said, prints are great, but the customer service was the best that I've ever had. So, and that's what I sort of pride myself on. And that's why I find it so hard hiring someone to look after that part of the business. Because it's not me, and I feel like people come to my shop for me. They don't come for somebody else, to speak to. But it's hard.
I found
brand. Sorry, mate.
Yeah. No, you go. Sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say, it goes back to your brand.
Exactly.
With you again. It's everything. Yeah. Sorry, Josh.
I found that hard, like in a similar. Like, because we're both very, still small, I guess. And, everyone associates, all the work with you. And I find it hard, Catherine had been helping me with production, with my handout and stuff. And, it's like your name is on everything that goes out. And it's such a hard thing to, not see something that you haven't done. Like, if something's a little bit off, and I've seen something it's a little bit how you going or whatever, but I know no one's going to notice it, but I notice it. It's so hard to let go in that early stage, because everyone just doesn't think of everyone thinks it's you doing everything. So if someone's disappointed, that it's like they're disappointed in yourself rather than the business as its own thing, sort of thing.
I don't know if that changes when you have more
No.
people, though. I still take it really personally. I got a real problem
Mm.
with it. Like I feel like it's wrong. We had a job recently where it was a I won't say what company it was, but it was white and pink, and it was this really strong fluoro pink. And with those sorts of things, we do the mock up with the actual Pantone in. We talk about the Pantone. We say, you got to check this. Are you happy with it? Pinks are different. It's like pinks and creams. What a
Yeah.
nightmare of, definition. It's really lacking. So anyway, it went through the process. We printed them, and the customer came back and they showed us a photo, which is always a problem. Like photos never really capture the colors quite right. And then you've got your screen of previous ones they'd had done. And they
Right.
said, can you see that the pinks are different? And I said, yeah, I can. But, we went through a process.
Mm.
You approved it. And you didn't tell us there was, you could have actually posted one of these to us and
Mm.
we would have matched it with a Pantone. They were furious. And they said, unequivocally, they're sending them back and we will give them 100% refund. And I said, you can send them back, but we won't be giving you any money.
Mm.
Now, in the course of that, I thought, they're going to give us a really bad review. This is a
Mm.
disaster. Maybe we should reprint. And one of my colleagues went, no, we
Yeah.
did everything right. But I still felt that pain of,
Mm.
we've let a customer down, but we haven't really. They've kind of let us down. And I tell you what, I really probably shouldn't have done this. In contrast to what you're saying, the last email I had from that lady was great customer service. And my reply was great customer, which was really
Just
pushing the
butter them up a
envelope.
bit.
But,
Yeah.
come on. So we didn't seem to get a bad review. So who knows?
Mm.
It could happen still, but they haven't been sent back. But it is terrifying when
Mm.
someone sort of says, oh, no, they did a really crap job or whatever.
Yeah.
Um,
Mm.
just going back very quickly to that whole thing of, that maybe there's a little bit of um, underbase creep on one of the t-shirts, let's fix
Yeah.
it and so on. Do you sometimes feel like we're a little bit too
Oh, yeah.
pernickety?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
Definitely. Like I'm sure you guys are probably the same, but when you go out or I take the kids to the shops or whatever,
Yeah.
every print, I'm just like, like looking at everything. I go into the shops and the kids are like, they're 11 and 9 now. So dad's a bit embarrassing. So I walk in there and I'm rubbing prints. I'm like, this is a transfer. Like, this is DTF. What are they doing? It's like Billabong or something like that. Like, this is DTF. What are they doing? And the kids are like, oh my God, Dad, stop. Like, we just want to shop for some bathers or something. But yeah, I find myself looking at every single print, and there's so much out there that the underbase is showing, or the prints just not that I wouldn't send them out of my shop, no way. But and you go out and you look at someone standing in front of you and you're just looking at their back print and you're like, that's too high up, like and you just pick them apart and watch TV and you're like, that's too far to the left, it's under his armpit and stuff
Mhm.
like that. But I feel like we waste a lot of time being perfectionists but if we weren't, then we wouldn't be happy at the end of the day.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Occasionally I get called out to look at something and I know straight away it's because they can't work out whether they think it's okay
Yeah.
or not, right? And so you look at it and you think, oh yeah, well, and then what do you think? You get someone, what do you think? And there's like,
Mm.
a few of you looking at this thing, and after all, you go, is the customer really going to care
Yeah.
about, and it might be, obviously there are points where we go, no, that has to be redone, guys.
Yeah,
Back to the
exactly.
drawing board. But sometimes I just feel like we're really a little bit too much like that.
Mm.
But it depends on the customer, right?
That's
Like,
right. Yeah.
if you're doing something for a clothing brand or a big band or, whoever, but somebody that knows what screen printing really is and what it really should look like, I think would probably go. But if not to denigrate churches in any way, that's one of our biggest markets, but sometimes we think, no, that's okay.
Mm. Yeah.
It'll be fine.
or a builder's shirt that they wear to work and sweat in all day, and they
Yeah.
don't care, and they throw it in the dryer, and
Yeah.
all that sort of stuff. Like, they don't care, but you do. So
Mm. We we just did some uniforms for a painter this week, and they're like a dry fit type shirt, and they had like black under the sleeve. The rest of the shirt was white. It had a bit of like migration from the black where it had been folded, and I was like, oh no, we got to like send them back. And there was like a couple little marks on these shirts, so we got the supplier to send some new ones. Um, Catherine's like family friend was the customer, and got a photo like the very next day after they received like the shirt, and just like there was no point taking any care in that because it's full of paint and like red dirt from Toowoomba. And I was like, after all that, like being so careful with the white, like around the shop and make sure everything is clean and like any marks, I was like, yeah, it was fine. They wouldn't have noticed at all.
yeah.
Wow. So let's talk about kit. What do you got? I can see the Vastex 4.4. How'd you go with that? That lovely
Yeah.
press.
It's well, coming from the eBay 4-color one station, it was amazing. It's a great press. Can't fault it. Reg, I can pretty much pick the thing up and move it, and Reg will stay in place. Like, it's the only thing I wish is I got a 6-color. I had to wait. I think it was during sort of the end of COVID, so boats weren't coming over, and I think it was about a 6-month wait just to get the 6-color over. And they had a 4-color in stock, and they said you can upgrade it you can add more stations and stuff like that. And I was like, oh sure, all right, no worries. So I got the 4-color, and yeah, I wish I got that 6-color. Like, I was only kind of doing 1 to 4 colors previously, so I was like, well, I don't really do anything else anyway, so I'm just going to get a 4-color. But I've really started getting into sim process work this year, and weaseling that down to a 4-color, trying to get a highlight white on there or something. I've got a one to do tomorrow. Oh, sorry, Monday, and it needs to be a 6-color. I've pretty much taken the yellow out of it altogether, and just sort of making the red a little bit more orange, but just little things like that. But I really wish I got the 6-color, but I have priced up to add more stations, but I may as well sell that and buy a 6-color. It's about the same price. So
we've got an 8-color. We started with that. We started with a Chinese press like yours.
Yeah.
And but it didn't have micro edge. It had, nothing.
A hammer.
And it was
Yeah.
And when you were talking about the platen flexing, that takes me right back to how disturbing that was. Then we went to secondhand AdTech, which was a 4-color, again, no micro edge, but that was a good solid press. Then we went to the 4-color Vastex and upgraded it to the 8-color.
Okay, yeah.
We are thinking about downgrading it, back to a 4.
Yeah.
So if we do that, I'll give you a shout, because we can
for sure
look at a deal that I'm sure would work to get.
Definitely.
It would be an 8. You jump from 4 to 8.
Well,
but
I'm happy to go to that.
Okay,
That's even better. So but that's what I wanted to focus on this year, is to do more colors and really explore sim process, because I love that sort of stuff. I've done a few this year, but it's just getting that kit upgrading and just constantly. We just upgraded our dryer. I was using the little AdTech Blue for 3 years, and man, that thing was so solid. Like, it never let me down. Like, you'd have to put prints on angles and run them through twice, and you couldn't do prints over 30 centimeters wide because it wouldn't cure on the edges. So you'd have to flip it and everything like that. But that, like, I've never got a call up being like, my print's washed out. So it was probably overcured, but never undercured. But I just upgraded to the M&R. What's it called? Economax.
Nice. Yeah, right.
Yeah, but that's fantastic dryer, that thing.
Is
It's
that an electric dryer or a gas dryer?
that's electric. Yep.
Yeah, right.
Yep.
And that's
But
got a
yeah,
wider belt.
yeah, it's a lot wider than the added tech, but I think the curing zone's around 40 centimeters. So I only print on the standard Vastex platens, which I think are about 35. So my prints only usually go up to about 32 to 30 centimeters wide,
Yep.
which is a bit of a pain in the butt because a lot of people they want those oversized prints, but I don't like doing them either.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll try and steer clear. I'm like, no, that's as big as we go, and that's as long as we go, and it's just otherwise it's just another thing you got to add to production.
Yeah. Do you do the same, Josh? What's your print size?
Yeah, we're probably pretty similar for size and even like if we were doing DTF and that sort of thing, we just tell them that's our max size, and
Yeah,
usually everyone's like, oh, okay, cool. Like they just don't know what the max size is, and they have
yeah,
an idea in their head. They
Yeah.
all
and
see the mock up and they think it looks too small,
yeah,
but then it's like, bro, it's gonna be next to your arm.
Yeah.
yeah, the mock up, and they're like, oh, can you just make it like that fraction bit wider? I'm like, this isn't to scale spot on. This is kind of like a representation of what it's going to look like. It's not millimeter perfect. And then there's some prints that especially round logos, I find they want a massive, and I'm like, it's not going to look good once you wear it on a small t-shirt.
Yeah.
And then they post a photo and it's the entire back and it's this little kid wearing it and it just looks ridiculous. And I'm like, I told you so. You don't listen to me, but it's hard when somebody has that vision of big and bold and bright, and you're like, just tone it down a little bit.
Mm.
But you can't. Some people you just can't talk them out of it.
You ever get those, things where your customer produces a mock-up that they've done online somewhere and the print runs from just below the collar
Yeah,
like that,
Yeah.
all the way
and
to the bottom
it
seam.
sort of,
Yeah,
and you go, well, look, guys, it's not possible. Oh, well, I've seen it done elsewhere. Yeah, I know you have, but it's
and
not in a
they're
commercial.
running pre-orders. They're running pre-orders with that too.
Yeah,
That they've put a mock up on Instagram and they're running pre-orders with that design. Like,
Yeah.
they ain't going to be that
And
big.
it's size small to
Yeah.
3XL.
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Have you ever had those ones where the customer provides a mock-up and the print runs around the neck like this?
Yeah. I just
Uh-huh.
did this week. I just did a hoodie, the top of a hoodie, and it curved around
Ah.
the
Wow.
hood. Oh, it's a nightmare. So I wouldn't, because you got to try and get that angle right, because the hoodie obviously curves, and
Yeah.
I think it was on the heavy hood. So the heavy hood from As Color is the only one that doesn't have the seam in the middle.
Yeah, right.
So
Uh,
loading it on and exposing your film with that slight curve, and then you got to make sure every hood's. I just sort of drew a line on the platen, and every hood's up to there and not curving around, and just little stupid things like that. I'm like, why do I do this? I should have
mhm.
just why do I do it? But yeah, it's what we do, I guess.
Customer service again.
That's
Back to,
right. Yeah.
back to that.
Yeah.
So
That's right.
I've got some questions about your service, because talking about that,
Hmm.
it's a little different to mine. And um, I noticed that you charge 50% upfront and then collect the
Yes.
rest later.
Yep.
You ever been tempted just to get all the money first?
Um, yes, I've been told by my partner numerous times to stop with the deposit. She's like, just take it all. But and since sort of upgrading, I used to just do all my invoicing and everything through QuickBooks and then just send it, and then they would bank deposit. But since using Hoops and switching to Zero and integrating Zero and everything like that, most of the time now they'll just press on the Pay Now button and pay it through the Zero invoice. So I would say probably 80% of the time now it is paid in full.
Okay.
But going with that deposit, when I first started Heaps Good, my target market was low minimums, small businesses, especially in COVID. I wanted to target, because there were so many small businesses popped up, and I wanted to target that audience. And a lot of them didn't have the money up front. So, it was a bit risky being like, deposit 50%, and then you pay the rest when your stuff's ready to go. But I never sent anything without getting that full payment. And to this day, touch wood, I haven't been bitten in the bum for it, but I can see how I've had other printers DM me on Instagram about clients that I'm printing for, rather large clients too, and they're like, they owe me 10 grand. and I'm like, well, that sucks, but nothing leaves this shop without being paid for. And that was the end goal, is get small business in, get them to lay down a few $100s, or doing the minimum 20 t-shirts, and then get the other 100 once. And if they did pull out, then I would only be losing my time, because that 50% pays for the garments, and running a 21, most of them are one color sort of jobs. Running that in the press, it's an hour front and back, so it's not a massive risk, but it is still a little bit risky, especially with those small businesses, because they could close down any time. But it definitely worked for me. But yeah, like I said, now 80% of the time it's that full upfront that I don't really even ask for. It still says on the invoicing you pay 50% to get your order started, but they just click on that pay now button and away they go.
I think by the time a quote's gone through, even if it's a small business, they've mentally allocated that amount.
Yeah.
And they know. We've never asked for less than 100. And we only get asked now and again by a customer, how much is the deposit? And we go, well, it's 100%.
The whole lot.
And nobody's complained. You know what I mean? It seems to be okay. Is that the same for you, Josh? You doing 100% payment or 50% or?
I am now. I started 50 down, 50 before we send it. But there's a few times like I'd focus on just getting the job done and then send it, and so the customer has it, and then they're slow. And then but I found it difficult sort of scaling a bit with that, and it was just a pain in the ass to have to do the bookwork, and there's bits and pieces wherever. So now it's 100 up front, which is also handy since we've been doing some bigger jobs, because we do some oil and gas stuff, and it's bro, I don't have this money just hanging out to buy this stock or whatever. So that's been handy
for sure. And I noticed too, Matt, that you have it's part of your brand, I guess, but the story around minimum is 20, but it doesn't have to be 20 t-shirts.
That's right. Yeah. So
that's probably very helpful again, isn't it?
It is there, and that was again targeting that small business. So you can do 5 tanks, 5 hoodies, 10 t-shirts, whatever you want to do, as long as that design fits on that garment, and I don't have to change a screen. Obviously, I've got to muck around with belt speeds and temps a little bit, but once that's sort of dialed in, it's just a quick 5-minute adjustment, and away you kind of go. And I run a lot of promos. Well, I did. I don't do them so much now, just because it's so busy. And this year, my target audience, I'm trying to change it a little bit and get bigger clients. And because as you get busier, those little clients, those little jobs, they just take up more and more time. You're like, well, I've just done 4 setups in today, when I could have done 1 setup and printed more shirts, for a big client. But that's on my vision board this year, is to get those bigger clients. But yeah, I think starting out, definitely, if you can go through a bit of that pain of adjusting belt speeds and dialing in your temps and everything to allow for those adjustments in garments, then do it, offer it, because people love it. And especially if you're targeting small business too, they're not just having to get 20 t-shirts when they only want to wear 5.
Yeah.
Is that, do you guys do that, or
we do? Yeah. Well, it's tricky. The rule is 20 minimum for us, and normally we say it's 20 of one type, and then you can buy smaller numbers of others. But if it's a local business that comes in, it's a plumber, we just say no. You can have 20, mix it up how you want, and then they end up getting them for the kids and the grandparents, which is okay.
It's not one size two, please.
Yeah,
Mm.
that's a great. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a real nightmare.
Yeah.
And do you do something similar, Josh? You mix
Yeah,
it?
I
Yeah,
love it most of the time, but we do it.
yeah.
Bulk those numbers up a bit.
What do you do if you do get like one size two? Would you say no?
Now I DTF it. I'm just like, yep,
Yeah,
sure.
right.
But and majority of the guys who do that sort of stuff, they're builders, and they just a small business, and their logo's white or black, or sort of single color. And I'm like, the color might look a tiny bit different, but I don't even have kids platens because I'm just wipe my hands of it. I'm like, anything
Mm.
under size 12 is DTF.
Okay.
Yeah,
Right.
so because size 12 I can still fit on the platen, and the design doesn't look ridiculous on it too. So
Yeah.
anything under that is just heat pressed.
We'd go
And
down to
that's
size 8 before we
yeah.
try something else.
Okay, yeah.
Um, um, but sometimes we might get a 6. Our platens are big as well. They're, on the
Mm,
auto, they're very big. On the manual, they're probably the same size as your one.
yeah, yeah.
Um, but anything below that, yeah, it's a nightmare.
Yeah, it
And we
is.
always say, what's the total value of the order? Is it
Mm,
worth $1,000? Is it worth more? Is it worth doing those 5 size 2? And
yeah.
often if it's single color, we'll just run a plastisol transfer and heat press them, which everyone complains about. But then we say, well, look at the size of the order. Come on, guys.
Yeah, yeah,
It's,
yeah.
it's an issue, or can be. So you're talking about getting into bigger markets, I think was what you said.
Yep.
What's your strategy with that? How are you planning to do that? Is it another particular target market, or are you just trying to
Um,
get bigger order sizes? What's the plan?
yeah, it is a different target market. And a lot of the time it's not so much cold calling, but cold emailing. I don't do any research on these brands. I don't want to know who prints for them because I feel like I don't want to step on any toes. And I'm happy to respect if they're happy with whoever's printing for them. But I have hit up a few different larger companies, breweries, and
Mm.
um, tattoo sort of suppliers of ink and stuff like that. Stuff that's still my brand. They look at my brand and they can connect with
Fits.
it.
Yeah.
But I haven't had a hell of a lot of success yet. But I haven't also done it a whole lot either, just because it's been so busy. I haven't been able to sit down and get onto that cold sort of emailing. But yeah, it's a tricky one to sort of get your foot in the door. I print for a few big brands now. The only problem is they don't do a hell of a lot of merch. So they're coffee brands and a couple of men's mental health brands, but they do a lot of merch. But yeah, it's just finding that balance of finding that big company who also sell a truckload of merch. And that's where I wanted to sort of target this year is get away from the small business 20 t-shirts, and go for those bigger orders, because I need to grow with the business, and I feel like we're at the point now where and I feel like everybody sort of notices. I was talking to Trent, my employee, about it the other day, and you notice when you look at your books, they plateau. And I find like when they sort of hit that line, you go, well, it's time to expand a little bit or do something a bit different. And that's what I've sort of noticed while running my business, is you hit that threshold and you're like, well, what can I do? I've been hitting this for a few weeks or whatever, and it's not going up and it's not going down, but it's sort of just balancing at that point. And then I find, I upgrade my press and it goes up that little bit more, and then you upgrade your darkroom and it goes up that little bit more. And I don't know if it's just you getting faster with your production, or the universe is looking after you or what, but but I feel like I'm at that point this year where I need to scale again, and not to the point where I want 5 staff and a massive factory, because I'm not about that. I'm about sort of staying small and staying local, so to speak. And you know, there are other shops around here that are huge, and that's just not where I see myself. But in saying that, I still need to scale to a point where it's profitable.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm. I think it's a lot less hassle as well than,
Yeah.
going big. You might not be able to help it though at some point. My wife's
Mm.
always saying, just stop getting the customers. But, you know,
Yeah.
how does that work?
Yeah.
Sorry, no, you've called at 9 a.m. We don't do audit. You're like,
Yeah.
I
We're
just
we're
don't know how that
busy.
works. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I guess put your prices up. That's another way of controlling it a
Yeah.
bit.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I think it's that thing about, is the universe looking after us is really interesting because
Mm.
a lot of people you hear talk about, perhaps when they're jumping from a manual to an auto, in that they go, well, it's amazing. You just get an auto and boom, you get all this
Mm.
business.
Yeah.
But actually, I think it's just what's actually happening there is you're a bit like you said, your business is at that point where you need an
Yeah.
auto, and it's continuing to grow, and growth can often be incremental. Let's say you've got 100 customers and 60% of them are coming back, and you get another 100, 60%, it's
Mm.
just going to.
Yeah.
So I think it's about timing more than anything else.
Yeah.
Um, but I think that shows wisdom not to kind of think about getting too big. I think that's
Yeah.
definitely that can be an issue. Um, and I think those markets as well, particularly breweries, they're because you develop a relationship with them. They're especially obviously the craft brewers. I'm not talking about what is it where you guys are from, 4X, is that right?
Yeah.
I'm talking about that kind of Carlton
Yeah.
type thing. But those craft brewers have a different approach to life,
Mm.
and
Yeah.
it's amazing. And you get a partnership really with those types of customers. Um, is that your strategy as well, Josh? You're looking to kind of in your vision board, is there a kind of picture about hitting different markets and getting bigger quantity of orders?
Yeah, definitely trying to get the get the volume up a bit more on everything. I don't know. I'm a bit the same as Matt. Just I think just got to. It's just a volume game. You just got to hit people up and try things, but it's hard when you are busy.
Mm.
Um, when your time's taken up on those smaller orders to try and find time to work on like the bigger stuff that takes the same amount of time to set a job up for 50 as it is for 500 or whatever. So um, yeah, that is the plan. Hopefully, I was interested to know when you moved to your new shop, did you find a difference in bigger customers coming when you did that? Just having another sort of legit location, I guess.
Yeah, and I think like I had them just call in too. They that wasn't even, we didn't even have any sort of communication with them at all. They just stopped in and drove past and saw it, and that pretty much happened from there. Like I think having that location on Google so that they can find the place
Yeah,
is definitely a big help.
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I found Google helpful. We're a little bit more national, only because we're in a small town. The other screen printer that was here went bust, so we sort of picked up all their work, um,
Mm.
which is good. But I don't think we could survive without trying to hit those bigger markets and getting a piece of that pie.
Yeah.
And listen, I don't think there's anything wrong with cold calling. Even when someone's got another screen printer, there's nothing wrong with that. They might just give you a go. The thing I don't like is when someone poaches a customer off or something you see on Instagram or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're like,
I've
that's a
had
bit.
that. I've had that a few times. Like you, a client will post, and usually tag me in it, and then I click on their profile to see the post, and it will be like so and so now follows, another print shop will start following now. Like
Yeah,
getting a bit
yeah,
cheeky, but
yeah. It's tricky.
yeah,
And often, well, not often, but some customers really all they care about is the dollar.
yeah,
And I think that's tricky with merch and with breweries, their merch as well, because
mm.
you just know what they're going to charge and you know what they want to make. And we had a brewery in town here at a festival, and they were visited, or rather, another customer who runs a Thai restaurant, um, went to the festival and they saw their t-shirts being sold, and they came in on Monday to us and went, much are they getting t-shirts for? They're selling them for this. They're really angry about it. And I was like, well, you're buying 50, they're buying 500. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
but to him, another dollar would have made a big difference. You know what I
Mm.
mean? Mentally. So I feel like that can be a real pain. Or you might, in our thing, you might have a church saying, the kids have got to pay for these hoodies, and, they're X dollars. The church isn't making money out of it, rightly
Mm.
so, but it can be a lot of money for a kid. And you think, oh dear, that's awful.
Yeah. You're
Well,
ripping
let's
the
go
kids
to,
off.
yeah. Well, but
Yeah.
then my response is, well, let's try a different brand of garment.
Yeah,
Doesn't
exactly.
need to be an AS Color heavy hoodie or whatever.
Yeah.
So you're stocking AS Color. Are you using any other brands as well?
Yeah, I use the majority of the wholesalers in Oz. I use, Gildan, Aussie Pacific, JB's where, but most of them we've got accounts with, but everyone wants AS Color. I'm trying to steer people towards Gildan, and I had a rep in here the other week, and he brought in some samples because I don't use it much. Um, because everybody asks for AS Color, but he brought in some samples, and they're good. Like a lot of the all style sort of stuff, and
Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah.
um,
Top
and
tip.
they do that boxier fit with the higher neckline now. And I find, with the heavy tees, that neckline just goes all ribbed, and people complain about it a lot. But the Gildan ones, they seem good, so I'm trying to steer people towards that sort of style, and that thicker, different feel, because the soft ring spun's good, but I feel like that vintage sort of faded black, heavier sort of like thicker material,
Mm.
it's in at the moment, and people don't know that it's there to use.
Yeah.
What about you guys? Do you guys mainly do AS?
How about you, Josh?
Yeah, for the most part, we do a lot of uniform stuff, which would be other brands. But as far as like printed stuff, it's mostly AS color.
Yeah.
It's just easy, I guess.
Yeah.
It's the same for us. We do all of them, but again, we do try and steer people towards Gildan. Like we do a lot of special deals for kids' camps, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And they're just going to get a better bang for their buck again if we go for Gildan. But often the customer just says no, they want AS color, and
Yeah.
so we do that. Um, I sort of feel like, and I just want to be careful what I say really about Gildan, because I really like them.
Mm.
They're so well established. They have been a little bit kind of cloistered in the band market
Yeah.
globally forever. Um, but I feel like they're really introducing some more interesting products in response to people like AS Color
Exactly.
and
Yeah.
other
With
brands.
that with
But
that American apparel sort of
yeah,
fit too, like that. I feel like that if they do that properly, it could be huge.
I
Yeah.
just feel like it takes time to get to Australia.
Mm,
Those things have been out in America for a while,
yeah.
and we're only just beginning to kind of see them here. But they're doing it. Like all the new products, I think are really good. Like I like that new hoodie, the SF 500,
Hmm.
whereas the old 18600. Uh, you know,
Yeah.
customer goes for those, you kind of cringe when they
Yeah.
come into the
Yeah.
shop. But I feel like the new one's really good. It's
How are you guys going with stock levels at the moment? Like, I've found it an absolute nightmare leading into winter, and I'll do a quote for a client, and then by the time I usually do a couple of orders through with AS Color a week, so I do it at the start of the week and the end of the week, and if it sort of falls between that two, my order at the end of the week, I go to do it, and they're all out of stock. I'm like, oh, so then you back to the client, you're like, in those 3 days, they've completely sold out. And you're like, we've got this color, we've got that color. And they're like, no, I want that color. I'm like, oh, okay. Like, I find winter's just shocking, and they sell out so fast. I don't know if everybody just buys them up to have them in stock.
I think what happens is they shift their supplies, so they reduce the amount of t-shirts. Let's say that they're restocking,
Mm,
to hoodies, and if you're still selling a lot of t-shirts, you go on and it's just not
Mm,
there. I think
yeah,
that's one thing they're doing, because obviously they're managing their warehouse wholesaling at a huge
yeah,
level
yeah,
where it must make thousands of dollars difference a day. So I think that happens. Same issue's always been there with Gildan. I think they're getting a bit better. And that was partly you'd get halfway through the winter season, they'd run out of black hoodies.
yeah, yeah,
Like the
exactly.
most obvious thing to overstock, and they'd run out. It was just to drive me mad.
Yeah,
Um, but then you get that. I don't know if you guys do this. Um, for some reason, gyms do it a lot. They want 30 different colors,
right.
and you just know, you're probably going to get half of that available. And
mm.
Yeah,
so you got to phone and text and change this, and they got to go back to the person that bought the garment. It's just like, oh
yeah.
no. Do you guys have rules about that? Do you allow a customer to do that?
Um, I I do, as long if the ink color is staying the same. I'll be like, yeah, no worries. Like, I'm happy to print on any color on the rainbow, but as long as the fabric's the same and we're not having to swap out ink or anything like that, and I can just run it through exactly the
Yep,
same as a black one,
yep,
then it's fine with me. But if I do have to swap out, white ink for, let's say, red ink on a white shirt, then I charge a $30 on press color change fee,
good.
and it's
Yeah,
each color change. Whether and then if they want a green one, it's another $30.
yeah,
So
100%.
that kind of just, because it slows production down so much. Your platens cool down, everything cools down, and you're stopped. And
Yeah,
but I think that just sort of covers for your time. Most of the time, they'll just be like, "Oh, just print it white then."
that's right. Yeah, we do that with customers choosing lots of different colors of garments. Uh, what we usually do is say, look, when you put your order in, you can go and check this stock is available
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
before you come to us. But our advice is once you've checked that and you put your order in, we'll send you the invoice straight away. We recommend you pay it straight
yeah,
away, and then
yeah.
we'll order the stock because, yeah, an hour can make a difference.
It really can. Yeah,
It's stressful. And I don't know, I keep meaning to ask AS Color whether when you go and start ordering your stock, once you put something in a basket, whether that's actually allocated or whether someone else is
mm,
competing for the same
Mm.
stock. Obviously, once it's ordered, it must come out, but it would be really cool if that, because you could just go in and kind of halt things. Because
yeah,
that's the other thing, you're doing an order and there's such and such a color
Mm,
missing of garment X, and it's just sitting there and you're trying to resolve this
yeah.
problem in the background before you, oh, I hate it.
And it used to. I think they fixed it this year, but with AS Color, I found it used to clear your card after a certain amount of time.
Yeah,
So I
yes,
think it's a lot better now, because I've put an order in the morning and then forgot to hit confirm, and it's still
Mm.
sitting there when I pack up in the night. I'm like, oh, I better do that. So, but yeah, that was a bit of a nightmare, especially when you're trying to get onto clients and being like, they're out of black. What do you want?
Yeah, I need to order the stuff today.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
and you do a 3 week turnaround, but do you do, if someone's really urgent, and you had the stock, let's say, would you do it next
Yeah,
day or?
I've had a few lately. I think there's been a couple of like CrossFit things and marathons on stuff like that people need it within 2 weeks, and I have sort of thought in the past to run, like, if it's a week, I'll run a rush fee on it. But if it's 2 weeks, I can generally slot it in somewhere and look after them, and I think that's sort of coming into that customer service thing a bit better, and making sure it gets done rather than being like, nah, sorry, it's 3 weeks. Some jobs, if it's a ridiculous amount and it's four color front back, I'd just be like, look, it's pushing it, but most of the time I'll try my best to get it done, and we haven't had any that haven't been done in time yet. So
Yeah, yeah. What kind of ink are you using? Didn't check.
I started off using Union, but I just found it, my wrists hurt basically, and I switched to Wilflex last year, the low cure Epic Rio
Yep,
range,
yep.
and I find that really good. It's pretty. Most of the inks are pretty creamy, and the white I'm using I think it's the Olympus Plus. I think it's called.
Right, okay.
I did try the Tiger White, and I love the opacity of it. I was just having curing problems with it. I'm not sure if, because I was back then I was using a little ad tech, but I'd run whenever I change an ink, I do a wash test and everything like that, and I found that it just wasn't curing all the way through, and it was washing out a little bit with my tests. So I switched back to the Wilflex
Perfect.
Olympus Plus, yeah, Olympia Plus, I think it's called. And yeah, it's been great. The
And you're
opacity is
using,
not as good as the Tiger White, but it's still, it's great for
it's
pretty much
fine.
everything. Yeah,
It feels a bit creamier. I never know whether that's an imaginative thing. I imagine it,
yeah,
but it seems creamier. We're using the Union for whites. So
yeah,
you're using Wilflex for your Pantones as well to
yeah,
mix your
yeah.
Pantones? Yeah.
We got the whole the Wolflex range to mix Pantones and the color system and everything like that. So, but yeah, it's the Pantones. You get a couple that are a bit, you got to add a few more things, and they're a bit off. But I've sort of, coming from like a sort of an art background, I know a bit about color theory, and to add a little bit of blue here or a little bit of yellow and green, and you can get it pretty spot on. But yeah, I haven't had any real issues with it, and the system is always up. It's never really down, and the only thing I need to get is probably a Pantone book, because a
Mm.
lot of the time I'll sort of go, I'll match it on my computer, um, and like you type in the hex code into a website. You type in the hex code, and it gives you like the closest Pantone color. And
Yeah.
then you go back into Illustrator and you put it in there. It looks a little bit different. And then you look on your Pantone book in Illustrator and it's a little bit different. You're like, okay, so,
Yeah.
but yeah, I think I need to take out a small loan to buy a Pantone
Yeah,
book.
Yeah. They're not
sell your
cheap,
first
are they?
one.
No, they're
Yeah.
ridiculous. I couldn't believe the price of them, but it's just one of those things that you need to buy to really sort of nail it.
We got ours on eBay, so check out there,
Oh,
like
really?
secondhand,
Oh,
dirt cheap.
oh yeah,
I was thinking
Yeah.
Timu, maybe Timu might sell
yeah, sure.
them.
Josh, you're using Union as well, are you?
Yeah,
Yeah, for
I
all colors.
for, I use a different white. I use Street Fighter 2
Yeah,
for
that's
white.
really good. I like Street Fighter.
Yeah, I like that. But as far as colors and stuff, it's all Union. I just went with it to start with, and I've bought some local shop stock when they like stopped printing and stuff, and it was all Union. And now I've just got so much of it. I have thought about changing in the past, but it's just so much stock that it's not really worth it at this point.
Yeah.
Bit more reducer in there if it needs it, or
And sometimes I think you just go with what works
Mm,
and what you like, and
yeah.
maybe you'll change your whites now and again to try something different. But
mm,
you know, again, I don't know if the customer really gets it.
No.
Obviously you want to get Pantone right, but um, I've never had anyone complain apart from that lady with the pink. But if they come in and say this is the Pantone, and we give them the Pantone, no one's gone, this is the wrong Pantone. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like they
mm,
seem to be cool with it. And some of those
Yeah.
companies, they have their Pantone.
Mm,
Like
yeah.
Salvation
mm.
Army has its red
Yeah.
Pantone, Coca-Cola has its red Pantone, and so on. So you got to get it right. But never had a complaint about that. I think a lot of it is like that. You can, in my view, is you can over research things
Mm,
in this industry, especially because everyone has their view. Wilflex is best, or Union, or Rutland, or whatever, and you think, oh, give that a go. but again, I think same with emulsions. Once you've got something that works well and you've refined it and you know exactly how to code it and exactly how to expose it and blow it out, I feel like sticking with it's better because you've only got to change, as we know, one thing along
Mhm.
the steps of processes and the variables, and it can all just go pear-shaped.
Mm.
You know, and your example of the puff ink at the beginning of the show, that you know did exactly the same as I did there, but obviously something's different,
Yeah.
and it you know get very. That's why I don't want to do puff. You know, you get
Yeah.
varied results. Do you ever print with discharge inks?
No, I haven't. I'd like to get into that sort of, I've seen a few discharge underbases and then plus on top, and I think it would just give that, especially being a large sort of back print, it would stop that big sweaty, especially in Queensland, that big sweaty print on the back. But
Yeah,
yeah, definitely would like to look into that sort of stuff this year and next year.
it's very unpredictable. Again, I can't stand it. Like we occasionally do it.
Mm,
It's definitely a fantastic result, no question, especially if you're using water-based throughout,
yeah,
not just for the underbase. Um, but the t-shirt choice color is critical. You know, some of these t-shirts, I don't think it's the case with AS Color, but some garment manufacturers re-dye garments. So they might have a line that
yeah.
doesn't sell in a color, they'll recall it and they'll dye it black.
I had that
And
problem the other week.
yeah,
Mhm.
right.
Yeah, yeah.
And you try and print on that, it's a
Yeah,
nightmare.
well, I had a few hoodies. The client called me up and they just said my prints turned pink and the hoodies were coal. And I said, I'm not sure how they've turned pink. And anyway, I had my rep for inks down here because I was blaming the ink, of course, as you do.
Mm.
And he's like, no, 90% sure was a pink hoodie and they've dyed it to match the coal color. And then obviously the dye migrations come up from the pink.
Yeah.
So that was a real head scratcher. I could not figure out what was going on. And the ink was like a minty sort of peppermint, like a really light peppermint color.
Oh,
Yeah, and I just couldn't get my head around it. And I was like, well, no, the hoodie's grey. Like it would come up really dark through the print if that was the case. But do you guys print? I know probably Josh, you probably print on a lot of polyester garments. Do you guys do a barrier or are you just printing with a poly white?
I've got a poly white. To be honest, most of the time I'm just heat pressing them.
Yeah, yeah,
It's just, well, a lot of the stuff we get, it's just, I hate like graphic designers just like chucking a gradient in there to try and make the logo look better. It's like,
yeah.
bro, like
Do that
it
with a
doesn't
poly
look,
white.
yeah. So, and our sort of normal combination would be like a embroidered left chest and something on the back with their phone number or whatever. Um, but most of the time we're just heat pressing the back. And it's also like the tradies aren't doing much volume most of the time. If they are, then we'd probably look at screen printing it
Right.
rather.
We would print and we would use a barrier base.
Yeah.
Sometimes we'll do just the low bleed poly white. Um, but it sort of the problem with the barrier base, as you'll know, is that it makes the print really thick.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
So we have a thing called a stampinator in the
Yeah.
automatic press, and that's brilliant
Mm.
because you're going to get fibril on a hoodie. You're going to get fibrillation. You're going to put a thick barrier base underneath it, and then in our case, you're going to stamp it flat,
Yeah.
and then you get a nice print on the top, which works. Um, but there are some garments we just refuse to print. So anything with too much poly in a hoodie, we just
Mm.
won't do it. It's just
Yeah.
too risky.
Yeah.
Um, but we are printing a little bit more like you, Josh. We're printing more kind of work polos, which nice
Mm.
to 100% poly. Um, and also, I've started wearing these. I can't stand polyester, but I've started wearing bamboo polyester garments, which are
Okay.
actually really
yeah.
quite nice.
It's
Yeah,
breezy.
yeah, they're cool.
Yeah,
Um,
nice.
and they print quite nicely. So yeah, that's how we would combat that. But it's
Yeah,
always nerve-wracking, you know.
yeah, it is. Yeah.
Someone goes, "Oh, I didn't turn the oven down," you know. Oh
Mm.
goodness, let's
Yeah.
go and have a look at the prints, you know, not the prints. Uh, but yeah,
I've just
it's scary when
uh,
you do it.
I've just never really done it, to be honest, and that's like, and it's just I'm just nervous. So I just try and steer clear if I can. I just hate the idea of having to redo it because I'm stuffed up.
Yeah,
But probably,
those new faded hoodies,
Mhm.
they get mad dye migration.
Yeah, they do.
Oh, true.
Yeah, like my white, most of the hoodies I'll just do with my cotton white, and I never really have any issues. I've never had an issue with it, and I thought I'll just print these the same, but I did a wash test because it's a new garment. I like to wash test everything just to make sure it's all going out right. And I took it home and I washed it, and the ink was like a dark grey after that. It was crazy how much it came through. So, tip for you there, definitely,
Yeah,
definitely
I
go the
remember that.
polymer.
Yeah,
I
anything
Yeah.
saw
that's
that.
faded or
Mm,
post dyed, you got to be really careful of. So
yeah.
Comfort Colors, classic,
Yeah.
post dyed garment. So after production and manufacture, it's dyed. Even the label is dyed.
Yeah.
Um, but only certain colors will dye migrate. I think we've got a
Yeah.
list somewhere of which ones will and which one won't. Um, and any of those color faded stuff you do, yeah, we just put a barrier base without a doubt on all
I'll
of those.
definitely be doing that now.
Or any of the camouflage stuff. The
Okay.
camo,
Yeah.
that's mental because some of those colors dye migrate and some of
Yeah.
them don't. So it looks really
The camo
strange.
print.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right. Yeah. Oh, those are scary issues when they happen.
Yeah.
Um, so when you got going, you mentioned you started with the Chinese press and so
Yeah.
on. What and you went on YouTube, you're listening to Cam Irvin, and did you get
Yeah.
Mikey Designs? You listened to
Yeah.
him?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Cam Irvin's vanished. I don't know
Yeah. I don't know
Mm.
what's
what happened to him. I loved watching his videos. He was
yeah, me
great. He
too.
was entertaining. Yeah.
Really good. Um, I almost sort of feel like phoning him saying, "Hey man, we want to watch the videos, get
You're
some
right.
going." Um, what would you say was the hardest thing to learn when you started?
um, Probably separations. Um, the countless amount of the film that I went through, just learning about chokes and spreads and what colors to print first and last, and that whole process, and then going from there to the sim process, and that would probably be my biggest sort of peeve to start with, and biggest sort of learning curve. Printing, I found relatively not easy, but I kind of picked it up quickly, and angles and pressures and stuff like that. But that I feel like that sort of stuff was spoken about a lot more in those videos and emphasized about stroke angles and stuff like that. So I took that all in, and then you start sifting through the separations videos and learning that side of it. And yeah, I definitely found that the most sort of tedious, and then you do all your screens and nothing's choked because you forgot to do it, and choking your
Mm.
underbase, and then you've choked your underbase, but then you've got lines where your other color will
Oh,
sit on top. And
that's
I'm
so
like,
frustrating when that happens.
yeah,
That's it. You're using Illustrator clearly.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, have you found a way? I found a couple of ways
No.
around it. Oh, okay. It does my head in that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
same. If I find it on the film, I'll just get a biro, a black
Yes.
biro, and go over it. But yeah, it's just stuff like that. That was definitely the most sort of tedious for me.
Did that include getting the right printer and film
Yes. Yeah.
combination? Yeah.
I
What do
went
you
out.
use for a film printer?
I went out and I bought this big boxy. I think it was like a Brother or something, because it printed A3 film, and that's all I knew I needed. And then I couldn't get any to print dark enough, and then learning about what ink to put in the printer, and it was never dark enough, and then rip softwares and stuff like that. So then I switched to the Epson, what is it, XP 15,000.
Yep.
And that prints the A3 Plus too, which is a little bit bigger.
Yeah.
Which I found with the old printer, I had to, I was turning designs on the side to make them that little bit wider. So I went with the A3 Plus just for that reason.
Get that extra bit.
Yeah, and then we added the SIS program with the inks and everything like that. And it's bar this week when it packed up on Monday and I had to go out and get a new one. It's been pretty good. The inks are really dark and everything. So I'd love to get into, CTS and lasers and all that sort of stuff, but eventually, yeah, I'm a little bit off that. So still on the films.
Certainly love to do that as well.
Yeah.
What are you using to do simulate process?
As in the
Using
software?
You're doing, yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Speaking of Mikey Designs, I've got his Action Sets program.
Okay, yeah.
And
tell us about that.
Honestly, that's really good. I could not talk more highly of that. It's just there's so many options. You pretty much load your artwork in, make sure it's in RGB mode, and click a button. And it separates. It's not perfect, obviously, but it separates I think it's got up to 12 colors it'll separate for you. And then I've obviously only got a 4-color press, and there's options for 4-color press, 6-color press, 8-color press.
Wow.
And you press that and it will then do all the colors for you again, but only 4-color. It gives you your highlight white, it chokes the underbase for you, everything. So you got to tinker a little bit to sort of get your values right. And then all you do, it's got, I use PrintFab for my software too.
Yep.
Pretty much press print and it prints out. So yeah, I couldn't talk more highly of that program. And I think I paid $40 for it. So
wow.
Yeah. I'd definitely, for anyone sort of wanting to do that and they don't want to sit down in front of the computer for hours and hours and hours separating, definitely sort of look into that. And there's a bit of a learning curve too, but I feel like once you sort of nail it and learn the program, it's so good.
Does that run inside Photoshop?
Yeah, it's an action. Yeah. So you set it up as an action,
yeah, right.
and then you press a button and it just does everything. You don't even have to press anything, and it'll just come up saying complete. You press OK, and it's done.
Wow.
Yeah, I've actually got a print to do on Monday that I've done with Action Steps. So, and a lot of them are car designs, like car guys. They like those sort of old vintage sort of style prints.
Yeah.
And yeah, they come up great. I need to upgrade my exposure unit. I'm still using the old eBay one, but so I can't get the LPI up too high. But I'm in the process of sort of looking for that exposure unit, and I saw there was a Starlight the other week for sale, and I was trying to get onto that, but just missed out. Somebody snapped it up.
Was that with Howard?
Yeah. I was on the emails, and I was like, typing my emails, and I think by the time I sent it, it was gone. So, but yeah, I definitely want to sort of upgrade the darkroom next and get a few things in there to make life a bit more bearable, especially for the young fella in there cleaning screens for half the day.
Yeah, that's not a lot of fun. What do you do, Josh, for simulated separations?
I took the cheat way, and Graphic Source does it for me.
Oh, okay.
But nice. It's not cheap, but they do a good job, and I'm not the best when it comes to Illustrator or Photoshop and that sort of thing. So I'll just save a bit of time and send it to them. Yeah.
Probably not a bad idea. We've done it a few times, and they do sort of piecemeal, don't they? You don't have to just pay the monthly recurring revenue model. Just do it piecemeal. Yeah, the time delay can be an issue. That's the thing I struggle with, but they certainly do a good job. There are some others out there, and if I could remember them, that would be useful. We use Separation Studio if we're not going to outsource it. But sometimes, like you, I just haven't got time, and outsource it, and I know it'll be good. Separation Studio is good, but perhaps a bit like Action Seps, it takes a while to really get your head around how to get it,
Yeah.
right. But it doesn't, works through AccuRip. I'd be interested to look at PrintFab. Actually, I've heard about it.
Mm.
The way that works sometimes can be really clunky with the positioning, depending on the kind of printer you've got, and
Yeah.
that I find frustrating. Often what we do with that, we actually output it as a PDF from there and then go back into AI and set it up and print it.
Yeah.
You've got more control over the printer that way. I'm guessing PrintFab will work for all kinds of printers.
Yeah, it's got
Everywhere.
all the different drives and stuff like that. I've had it on both my printers, so it's got a pretty diverse sort of range of printers that it works for.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
definitely have to check that out.
Yeah, it's pretty much a one-off fee too, and wasn't very expensive because I was looking at AccuRip and everything like that, and I just couldn't, being so small at the time, I just couldn't justify that amount of money for separations and doing them mostly by hand. If it's just spot color, I'll just do it in Illustrator and then just send them individually to the printer. So I was like, well, I don't really need it for any of that stuff. So, but now getting into sim process, I needed something so I wasn't bogged down on the computer for half a day looking at tiny little dots.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you wash up, when you do reclaim, we were talking about this last week. It was fascinating. What chemicals are you using to take out the ink, out of interest?
Honestly, I don't even know. I tell my rep I need screen cleaner, on press screen cleaner, and he brings this stuff in that smells really funky, and I put a mask on and spray it out. I just use like an on press one. So my on press one, it's just in a spray bottle and it smells like citrus. I don't know what it is, but it works really well, and it doesn't leave a residue or a film or anything. And then I usually just go over it with a baby wipe just to sort of freshen it up a bit. But in the screen room, we have in our dip tank, it's can't think of the brand, but the Easy Way, and it just takes all the ink off too. Well, majority of it. So when we spray out the emulsion, the ink will go with it. But yeah.
And then do you filter that water? Like, what do you do?
Yeah, that goes into the filter down the bottom of the washout.
Yeah, nice. And what do you do with the dip tank chemical when it's spent?
Well, I haven't actually. We only got the dip tank probably 6 months ago, so I haven't really had to do that yet. But I'm not sure what should I be doing with it.
And there's a number of different answers to that, and I don't know which one's right.
The best one for the environment, I think.
Yeah, I do know people that put it down, put it through their own filtration and put it out through sewerage. We don't do that just because I'm just terrified that, some environmental agency is going to turn up and go, what's going on here? So we put ours in an IBC and get that taken away, which is very expensive.
Yeah.
But I feel more confident doing it that way. And I have heard I've only heard of one print shop that got shut down because they were putting everything down sewerage and also stormwater, which obviously is really dodgy.
Yeah. It's running out to the road.
Yeah.
We're on a hill here, so I'll just tip it down the hill and see where it goes. But I remember washing screens out at home, and I'd do it in the driveway. I'd be washing this emulsion, and it was all just going down the driveway. And then you look back 6 months later, and the driveway has just got like all this rusty looking stuff. I'm like, I don't know what happened. It was weird.
We just used to put ours in the garden.
Yeah.
I need to get rid of my dip tank stuff at the moment, actually, and I'm not sure where I'm going to put it. It's a bit of a interesting predicament.
I have no idea why there's a whole load of fireworks going off.
What
did I do? I didn't do anything. It's bizarre. I have heard of people.
It's not me pressing that. I'm not pressing it, and then you're getting because you're doing the thumbs up.
Yeah. Oh, that's what it is. What a complete goon.
And maybe you're doing like spirit fingers, and it was.
Scary. What was I prattling on about? Oh yeah, I have heard of people putting them in evaporation tanks.
Okay.
Like obviously it's a slow
Right.
process, but flat bellied tanks that, maybe just a couple of inches thick or something, and they just fill it up and assuming it's a good day,
Yeah.
which it often is, isn't it, in this country?
Mm.
It'll just evaporate and you get like just the powder at the bottom, which is inert, and you can actually put that in the garbage.
Mhm.
And I quite like to give that a go, but today it's pouring with rain, like
Yeah.
it's not going to work if it does that too often.
No.
But it is a problem, isn't it, in our industry, is getting rid of
Mm.
that sort of thing.
Yeah.
I'd forgotten as you were talking about cleaning out screens, and this is something for you both to note.
Mm.
You will probably do what I used to do, and that is when you finish the print job, cart the ink out and actually clean the screen there and then.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen on an auto. Everything comes out, it's put somewhere
Yeah.
else, and it's a nightmare because having it on a platen, or even we used to just put a hoodie down on the platen, pull the screen down, spray the chemical, clean her out, take it out, do the other side, ready to be reclaimed. Um, but you can't do that obviously if you have to take the thing out and do it the old way, and
Yeah.
that's a real pain in the posterior. So what happens is the guys set up one of the tables, they put a load of hoodies on it. Our screens are bigger for the auto, which is a shame and something I didn't think about when we moved to an
Mm.
auto. Um, and they just use Franmar plastisol ink remover, I think it is, and so we're chucking away a lot of rags that way. But
Yeah.
it seems to work, and then into the dip tank, and on from there. But yeah, it is a perennial issue. Um, but yeah, no thinners this time. Although you're a thinners user, you're a thinners man, Josh.
I'm a thinners man.
You're a
Uh,
thinners man.
I
I
mean, if it
think
works, it works.
that's
That's
right.
it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So what do you feel's next for you, Matt?
What feels next? Was that sorry?
Yeah, like in the business, what do you think you'll do
Um,
as the next big step? You hit this
I,
new market,
yeah, hit
right?
the new market, and then I'd like to upgrade my press to get a few extra a few extra colors, and then probably put someone on to look after the emails and the phones. My whole thing is I still want to be in customer service and be that first point of call, but from there, I feel like quoting and everything like that can be put onto someone else. So it would be talk to me, tell me what you want, you get a quote from so and so in the office, and then I'm back on that thing printing shit.
Yeah,
So, and then have my shop hand in here, who I will eventually teach to print. He seems really keen on printing, which is great.
tremendous.
He's got like I said before, he's got a good eye for detail, and yeah, he's really excited to sort of get on press. But in saying that, it all takes time, but I want to get him trained up, hopefully by the end of the year, and I can go on holiday,
That's right.
and sort of have him here when I can't be here. Like I'm getting married in June. It's June. She's going to hate me if she watches this and I say June. In September. So we want to do a honeymoon next year. So I'd love to go away and know that the shop's still producing
Mm.
Yeah,
and quotes are getting done. And then I come back and it'll be like I never left.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
the next step. Yeah. And like I said, not scale where it's too much, but just sort of scale where it's just feels right.
yeah. And I
Yeah.
guess if you're able to get this other guy trained
Mm.
and it scales in terms of, new orders too much, you can get a second manual, and you can
Yeah,
go
and
back on the
yeah,
manual,
I'd love to do
and
that
that's
too. Yeah,
really good. Yeah,
just
it's
get him
getting,
a little sort of, even something like the another Vastex and or even I think, do you use the Gilroy, Josh?
Mm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
something like that. Just something that's not doesn't take up a hell of a lot of room. And put it behind my press. We can use the same dryer, and he can learn that way. And So he's got a press, I've got a press, and just smash out some work.
Mm, doubling productivity, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
That's definitely the answer.
Mm.
Okay, so if someone were to walk into your shop on Monday morning and
Yep.
say, I'm interested in screen printing, um, start my own screen print business, what would be your top tips for that? Or traps,
Um,
things to watch out for?
I would say go bigger than what you think you need. Um, that would probably, especially with the press, if you think you're only going to be doing 4 colors forever, you're not. and if you can afford to get that little bit more, then just do it. And just take a risk. Just work. It's a lot of hard work, but if you're willing to work and do it, then risk it, because nothing's more important than sort of betting on yourself and winning, basically, because
Yeah,
I feel like you're not going to lose if you've got that drive and you've got that push to get home from work and reply to emails and quote and go to bed at 10 p.m. and get up and check your phone at 6 a.m. Make sure there's no emails banked up. And if you're willing to do all that, then
mm,
go and start your shop.
yeah,
But there are other shops who hire other people to do that from the get go. But if you want to do it all yourself and be sort of a one-man band for as long as you can physically do it, then prepare to work a lot.
yeah, yeah. No,
Yeah.
it's definitely demanding.
Mm.
Okay. Any closing questions or thoughts?
I do have my little notes here. Um, how do you guys sort of balance that being the boss, but also that friend, so not friend, but so having a friendly relationship with your staff? Because I'm not a very confrontational person. So when it's time to be the boss, I find myself sort of not being assertive, or not sort of feeling like the boss. I'm like, oh, oh no, that happened. That's bad, sort of thing. But it's finding that I'm trying to find that balance of not being a complete jerk, but
Mm.
also being approachable and everything like that for employees.
Yeah. Wow, that's a brilliant question. I'm not sure I'm fully equipped to answer that one myself. I guess, well, one thing I always say is don't employ your friends,
Yeah,
but allow your employees to become friends. Um, in the sense that,
yeah,
if you're friends with somebody outside of work and you then employ them, the basis of the friendship is on something outside of work, and that tends to be more profound and longer lasting and closer and so on.
yeah,
So when things go wrong at work with that kind of person, you end up having to be the boss in the sense of saying, look, this isn't working out, which will probably damage your friendship.
yeah.
But if you employ people and they become friends within the context of work, you've got a different dynamic. And I think that's really important. I think it's really important to be friends. You don't, there's some people you're just not going to like, I guess, but you have to kind of love, if you see what I mean.
Yeah.
The master servant um, approach to management, I really respect. I think you need to be prepared to kind of die for your team, because then they'll respect you, and you're obviously respecting them by doing that.
Yeah.
But when things go wrong, it's really hard. We had one this week, actually. Now I remember.
Mm.
I, I hate to say anything, because if any of the team are listening, they'll know straight away who I'm talking about. But anyway, the person was setting up a sleeve print. I think it was pretty urgent. I don't remember what was on the sleeve now. And he just printed the what happened? There was I think the screen wasn't completely blown out. And he did a test print, realized, tore it down, took the ink out, blew it out, sorted it out, put it back on, but he put it back on the wrong way round.
Oh,
And he didn't notice.
Yeah.
So yeah,
It's
so the
so easy to
first
do with sleeves too.
it is, and when you're running an auto that's got 12
Mm.
platens, by the time the first one comes around. So I think he caught it before that, but he was so angry with
Mm.
himself, we kind of didn't need to,
Yeah.
say too much. Lydia, the production director, was really peeved, and she came in here and said, "You won't believe this." And I said, "Oh, keep calm." And so, in a way, he kind of disciplined himself. And I said to him at the end of the day, privately, what happened? Where did it go wrong? And he said, "Oh, I just didn't realize," or whatever. And I said, "Well, it's okay, but let's just try and focus. Let's keep it together." And that was the way we kind of worked with that. But it is frustrating. And often I have said to people in the past, is it that you just don't care? Like, let's get down to the kind of brass tacks with this, because this isn't your company, it's ours, but you are paid by it. And I always say to people, if you work for the company will work for you. So is it that you just don't care? And the person that I said that to fairly recently was really perplexed by that question. And I think they had to conclude that they didn't. And I sort of said, well, then let's care. Like, this is paying your mortgage. It's not necessarily the primary reason we do it, but it's certainly a big one. And I feel like that's good. I'm from the UK, and in the UK, if someone stuffs up, you can take it out of their pay packet.
Right.
I didn't realize you can't do that in Australia, but you really can't. And so, we did have an order years ago, and it was about 8 grand in revenue. And the person, we had a pretty dodgy old oven at the time, but the person doing the catching wasn't checking the temperature, and it had been put down. The temperature had been put down probably for a poly job or something, and hadn't been put up. And every single one of those
Oh,
hoodies cracked, but we didn't notice because we assumed that this person had it together. Went out to the customer. The customer was furious, quite rightly, and we reprinted the whole thing, obviously, and sorted it out. But I was reeling inside, like,
mm.
$8,000. Like,
Yeah.
what were you thinking? And they didn't care. They lost their job. But I wanted to say that's coming out of your next 2 months
Mm.
pay packet, right? But you can't, and I feel like that's a shame. But also, I don't want to scrutinize people so intensely that they can't express their way of doing things. Like, you always have, well, you got to do it my way, you got to do it my way.
Yeah.
And that's because you're frightened it's not going to work out. But generally, people can make things work, and they might find something better, a better way to do it. And so allowing them to do that. But we had a new guy start this week who will predominantly be on screens. He's young. He's, I think he's going to be really good. Um, but immediately I'm like, now this is how much a screen costs, and they're really tough unless you hit them this way, unless they
Yeah.
go pop. And I took him around the corner. We have a little place where we stack up screens that have the tension's gone or that they've popped or whatever. And I go,
The
this is what
graveyard.
happens. Yeah, that's right. These are all going down the road, and this is how much it's going to cost,
Yeah.
just so that he gets it. And, he's going to pop a few screens. It's just going to happen at some point. So hopefully he'll kind of put two and two together. But it is really hard, all of that.
Mm.
I think the worst things that can go wrong aren't those kind of issues. They're more interpersonal tensions. So we had a person here some time ago who was quite a lot older than everyone. They're in their 60s. They're a great worker, seemed to get on with everyone, loved being here, etc. But then something kind of went wrong. They were subordinate to someone else, went wrong in that relationship. I couldn't tell you what it was entirely. And it became clear that the older person didn't really like taking orders from,
Yeah.
and that, we had to kind of deal with that in classic HR mode. Come on in, let's have a chat. Here's your first warning, here's your second, here's your third. And in the end, they did something completely wrong. And I think it was deliberate. I think they'd had
Yeah.
enough and they just wanted us to kind of flicker, which we did. And we paid her off. We did, sorted her out well. But I think those things are the hardest to kind of deal with, in my experience.
Yeah.
How about you, Josh? You've just said goodbye to someone, so
Yeah.
I didn't ask why.
I'm Oh, she. So, bit of an interesting one, really. And it was a bit harder too because I knew her from like school days. So, we were, yeah, probably should have taken that thing and don't hire friends. But she was great. We just couldn't give her the hours and the money that she wanted for sort of, even though she is great and did a great job, I think I just couldn't justify that amount for what she was doing, which is an interesting sort of concept to think about because people are so important, but they also only can only pay them what that job is worth to an extent too.
Yeah.
But yeah, I struggle the same. But when I had someone helping with production last year, it was a bit of a hard one because he was older than me, and had supposedly been printing for a long time, but like just pretty heady going about everything, just like, and he didn't really get the concept of like things need to be done a certain way, so it's the same every time, and you'd be like, yeah, just let these screens dry outside, it's way quicker, and it's just like blowing wind and like shit all into the screens. I'm like, do them inside and put them into the drying cabinet so they're clean, and he's just like, but I think for every new person or and at the farm too, when I was farming, it was a bit the same too because everyone was always older than me, even when I was a manager. Each sort of interaction, you get a little bit better at it, I think, and you sort of learn the right words to sort of frame it in the right way so that it sort of sounds like it's not you versus them, it's sort of us versus the problem, which I think has helped. But I found that it is easier sort of bringing it up straight away because if they do something wrong the next time and you haven't said something the first time, it's just like, you let it slide last time. So
Yeah.
I think it's a work in progress with each interaction with each person. But it is hard and I'm not very good at it for sure.
It's finding that balance of what you should do and what you shouldn't do and what you should say and what you shouldn't say and how to teach. It's the joys of having employees, really, isn't it?
And the rights, if things get to that kind of industrial tension or action level, the rights are all with the employees.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's really unfair. Sometimes it isn't. Sometimes it's really fair. But it's paralyzing, if you do. That hasn't happened here, but it's happened to me in other contexts before in the United States where, it's very litigious. And yeah, it's if you're any kind of corporate, whether you're large or small, you're a corporate. And the
Right.
government sees you as if you look at it, the model in Australia, the corporate just ends up paying more and more and more and more. The wages continue to go up. You get hit for company tax. You get hit for obviously GST and income tax. But if any, and there's work cover. I'm sounding like a bit of a whinger here, but if anything then goes wrong, it's the company that gets it.
Yeah. Right.
That I find a bit outrageous. We have had people, like I said, threaten to go to the ombudsman, and one I think did. Well, they did, and I just said to them, "It's good. You should do that, but remember that we reserve the right to go to the ombudsman as well.
Yeah.
We are protected at some level, and so I feel like it's not, as far as I'm aware, it's not unionized, this industry, and that's probably a good thing." Because I could see it could be an issue with certain big factories and that kind
Yeah.
of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, learning how to bend in the wind, as my friend would say. Otherwise, you end up breaking wind.
Yeah.
That's not what we want to do, right? So,
No.
breaking in the wind. So yeah,
It is different. It is different when you're on the other side, when it's all like when you're not the employee, like you want to do as much as you can for your employees and look after them, but like there's a lot more that they don't realize. Like they just see like we're doing orders that are worth however much. It's like there's not as much in these. Like we're turning over a bit, but
Yeah,
there's a lot of most of that's just in the garment or
exactly.
overheads
Yeah.
or whatever. But it's yeah, and those extra little bits and pieces add up. My wife's a paramedic, and she went to a job the other day. It was another paramedic driving to work was in an accident, and it was still like covered under their like whatever work cover type thing they've got with Queensland Health or whatever. And I was like, do I have to like because she was just driving to work. I was like, does that mean do I have to do that if someone else has an accident? Am I on the line for that too? I was like, I'm not, because it's not my problem if they're driving to work, really. But yeah, it's just there's so many little bits that add up.
there's a lot to think about in a business, without a
Definitely.
doubt. But it's also great. Like I've loved running businesses and the cut and thrust of it and the winning. Like when you do get it right and you have some really good runs for weeks and weeks, and the team are happy and on point. And we have a thing, the guys call it the learning circle, which is our smoko. And lunchtime, we all have lunch together, and it's dependent on the production director. When she says, right, we're breaking, that's when we stop. So the timing can vary a bit, but we'll pull up for a good 20 minutes in the smoko and actually just have a laugh and a chat, and someone will bring up something and someone will go, oh, I don't know what that is, and we'll go to Google, and they call it the learning circle. Invariably, we end up talking about food. But it's those moments you think, these guys actually enjoy being here. Like, it isn't just printing t-shirts.
Yeah,
This
right.
is a culture here now. And, I think that's great when you can get that going. That's really special.
Definitely.
Yeah. Okay. Any more questions?
No, I think that pretty much covers everything. It's been great chatting to you guys.
Oh, and you, man. Totally.
Yeah.
Matt, Heaps good merch. You started this 2020, did you say, or 2021?
2021, yeah.
2021, your dad died.
Yep.
COVID was around. You broke your back in some way, right? You probably were a wee bit depressed in bed for so long, but you're a picture of perseverance, and that to me is awesome. And the perseverance has flourished into this factory now. You're looking at the next expansion, and the Whit Sundays aren't that far away, right?
They're around the corner.
And between where you are now and there's a wedding and a honeymoon, and the print shop's going to be running. So I think it's fantastic.
Thanks. You. Appreciate it.
Thanks so much for sharing your time with us this morning.
No problems. Thanks for having me on.
All right.
Thanks, Matt.
Thanks, Joshy.
Yeah,
you too, man. Yeah, we comment on each other's photos and DMs, but we never really have a chat, which is good.
Nah.
It'd be great if there was an event we can all meet up at once or twice a year and have a good chat. But just don't think there's anything really like that in Australia that everyone's willing to sort of go to, which is a bit of a bummer.
It is, and I reckon we just got to create one.
Exactly,
even if it's a catch up for a meal or something, we just say, right, we're coming to the Gold Coast or wherever, and we'll just do it.
It'd be great to do something.
Yeah, that was the best. Like when I went to America last year, like it was cool learning all that stuff and seeing things. But that was the best part, just chatting to people.
Yeah,
everyone's pretty awesome. I think that'd be an awesome thing to do.
Yeah, definitely. Maybe you guys can do it.
Surely. Let's do it.
Sounds good.
All right. Well, have a great day, and we'll speak to you again.
You too, guys. Thanks again.
Matt.
Appreciate it.
All right.
See you later.
Cheers. See you guys.